Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Southampton, part of the Global Sports Podcast Network. I am your host today, Zach Finch, and as always, joined by my wonderful co-host, Gregory Elliott. How are you doing, bud?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. It's Transfer Tuesday. It's everyone's favourite day of the week.
It
How
is
can we not
Transfer
be
Tuesday.
excited?
We have collated all of the information we've been able to find, and contrary to me talking about how July was going to be where it's at, I should have caveated that with the beginning of July is not really where it's been at. But it's not the end of the world. We've got some stuff to talk about. So I'm going to do a bit different this week, Greg. What would you rather talk about first, incomings or outgoings?
Let's do outgoings first.
So we get the boring bit out of the way.
Yeah.
So, breaking news that's kind of dropped today. Alfie House has confirmed this story definitely does have legs. It was originally dropped on X by, cut that bit out, mate. Sasha Tavaleri, I want to say. Saints FC and Club Bruges are in talks over a permanent move for Sam Adozi, which is fascinating because he's only obviously just come back off of loan. He's training with the first team. He's a player that I think me and you are both kind of, thought he had a solid term over in Belgium. And it seems that other teams in Belgium have agreed with that. Club Bruges being a big rival of his previous club, Anderlecht, is an interesting move. But yeah, so how do we feel about that, Greg? Obviously, Sam Adozi potentially out the door.
It's disappointing if it is the case, and yet not entirely surprising. I mean, he was always going to be... He's still an unknown entity in this league, right? So it is a risk to play him, even though he's had that good season out in Belgium. Even in that good season, he had injuries. So, maybe cashing in is a smart deal. It's a strange one, isn't it?
We're burning through those Man City prospects pretty quick that we brought in our last ever season in the Premier League before we got, our last Premier League season where, although we got demoted, it didn't feel as devastating as last season. So yeah, we've got Lavia, Bazunu potentially on the way out, Adozi now. So yeah, I find it quite interesting. Obviously, at the moment, apparently this story does have legs, but there's no formal bid or anything. By the time you listen to this might have changed. But yeah, currently, it just seems like a bit of a weird one because I think that he probably has a bit of an opportunity to grow and do well in the Championship this season. We're going to need attacking players. I'm guessing we'll keep whoever's left. I just think that when we think of that side now, our next person we'll go on to talking about has now gone. Who's going to take that place? Because I kind of thought that he might be able to stamp his. We're going to have better Brereton Diaz on the left potentially, Adam Armstrong potentially, Ryan Fraser potentially.
Confidence. Look, I personally hope that Adozi stays with us and that he's who we see in that position this season, and he goes from strength to strength. But also, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if he does end up making a move. I mean, still trimming those numbers, aren't we? That's
indeed
the key.
And obviously, moving on to someone I alluded to a minute ago, actually all confirmed, done and dusted. He's over. Super agent Ivan Juric. Sulemana is now at Atalanta. So it turns out you can have one season where you play sort of right towards the end and get a move for almost as much as we paid for him, which is great move all around for everybody, right? He's going to fit him. He seems happy. Juric is thrilled. We're happy. It's a sad, emotional end to what could have been an incredible journey. I still think that he had a lot of unfulfilled potential, and I don't really know what we could have done to get out of him. I wish him well in the rest of his career, but that is the end of his stay. Saints, we've already talked a couple of times about Paul leaving. Obviously, he had his big reception in Transbonzor. He arrived, tons of fans. Seemed like the entire city came out for him. Everyone kind of glad he's back. So that's another one. So obviously, people talking about who we're going to replace him with as a striker. And I think I even made the joke yesterday, Greg, that with all the players we've got back coming from loan, I think we forget we technically have about 4 strikers, and we'll be talking about potentially a new one upcoming. So. Moving on from obviously 2 faces that we kind of already knew were confirmed, but are now all over the line confirmed and at their new clubs. Our Bella-Kotchap's had some interest Obviously, it's not really a name we've seen a lot because obviously we've kind of made our opinions clear, right? Like when like 4 or 5 managers don't play you and see other things above other people. And we're starting to even see it with, they brought in Quashie, which obviously means that they're not really intending to keep him. You've got Kaya Sander training with the first team as well. So, yeah, it's not really surprising he potentially is on his way out. We just haven't heard anything. But apparently, Bundesliga side Hamburg are showing interest, according to Abendblatt on X. So, how do you feel about that, Greg? Is it about he needs to move? I think is the problem.
Yeah, no, great. Look, when you talk about trimming the edges of a bloated squad, Armel Bella-Kotchap is exactly one of those names that needs to move on one way or another. So the fact there's some interest, great, back to Germany for him, which I'm sure he will be happy with. Fingers crossed that can come to fruition and be a done deal.
Indeed. So back on the Man City train, one player we kind of forget about, mainly because he's been out injured for the entirety of since he joined, realistically. Juan Larios is obviously fit enough now to play and has gone out on loan to Spanish sort of, I think it's second division side. Cultural Leonosa is where he's headed off to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like fair play to him, right? Because, it's got to be devastating to consistently.
It's completely logical that a player who has been out injured for that long and was such a young player in the first place would go out on loan to get some proper minutes to build up proper fitness to come back and see where he's at. If he's even the same player anymore as he was back then.
He kind of gets to be a bit more around sort of familiar territory. Being back in Spain is probably going to doing some good. So, I think there were even rumours last season we were talking about him potentially permanently transferring to Spain. So it'll be interesting to see how a loan move works out for him.
What is a bit sad about that, Zach, is that's Matty Fernandez's best mate. So
yeah, but
one of the sticking points that we were hoping might keep Matty at the club, right? So
moving on to that, it is another player whose best mates have now left. Joe Eribo, obviously pally with Sulemana and Torpul. Apparently, he is going to be allowed to leave for a cut price fee this summer as he enters the final year of his contract. That's according to Darren O'Witskoop on X. How do we feel about that? Because, I think we've got a lot of midfield options, right? The fact they're bringing in Matsuki, who was obviously out on loan to our Turkish club last year. You've got Shay Charles that has come back. There is Downs. Do we need 4 sort of midfielders like that in that area? He's got a year left. Does he want to stay? Is he going to re-sign? Are we going to end up with a situation where he goes for no money again?
Yeah, it's got to be a combination of things, right? Because the thing about Eribo is that I think that he is a very versatile player. And I think in some respects that's almost to his detriment. He's kind of one of these jack of all trades, master of none. Would he be my first or even second choice in any of those midfield sittings? Probably not. Not really. He's not quite as averse to that. And especially that sort of pressing style of football. I just don't know if that's really one of his strengths. Certainly not that I've seen from him in his time at Saints. We've seen a lot in the last couple of years. A lot of players leave on freeze because they just run their contract down. Most recently Carl Walker-Peters, but also let's not forget Stewie Armstrong and Che Adams. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if the club just don't want to see that happen here. So I think it's a very logical connection to piece together. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go elsewhere and play his trade.
I forgot about Smallbone. It's we have so many, and obviously it depends how we're going to set up, and depends on the status of Matty Fernandez going forward. And let's not forget, for a long period of time, he was our top goal scorer, central defender, defensive midfielder, attacking midfielder, and maybe striker. Who knows?
Really just goes back to the point, right? Very versatile player. Does that mean that he's the best in any of those positions? Probably not.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the problems. And we're going to have to come up with some new songs because at this point, we're just going to be left with it started in a chapel. If Eribo goes, what do we do then?
We just need to sign another player whose name ends with an O.
Right, that I wouldn't put it past that. We're already potentially doubling up on Downs, but that's a spoiler for the next part of the episode.
Will Smallbone always believe in yourself? That's pretty close, right?
Yeah, I guess. could try and force
It's a
it.
stretch.
It sound
It's a
awkward.
stretch.
Come up with someone else. Who knows? But yeah, so that's pretty much all I've got rumored for outgoings. Obviously, like one of the other, there's a lot of rumors around Ramsdale, but Ramsdale is now back in pre-season training. They've taken a photo today, tried to show off that he's back. I don't know what they're trying to prove with that. Is it just saying, by the way, he's back, or are they trying to be like, maybe he's back for the whole of the summer and potentially a new season, baby? Like, who knows, you know?
It's either he's back and he's here for the whole season, or he's back. Hello, does anyone want to come and sign our really good goalkeeper? Like,
We would like
please
to
pay his wages.
We would like to. We'd like you to pay his wages, please. I don't know. Like, as I said, I think it would be good. It would be an absolute coup if we managed to keep him for the championship.
Yeah, 100%.
I worry that it's going to be like a drag right down to the start again, like with James Ward-Prowse, and then he goes after playing the first 2-3 games, which is not what you want when we've got Pompey so quickly into the season. And I know I'm worried about complete hypotheticals here, but it is one of those things where they haven't talked about the goalkeeper position. They still aren't talking about the goalkeeper position. Should they be talking about the goalkeeper position?
Maybe they just, maybe it's just known that he's just going to stay because he's happy and he's settled, right? Like,
yeah.
It's impossible to know behind the scenes. We can speculate and we can, draw our own conclusions based off of our assumptions, but realistically, the only people who know are Aaron Ramsdale and the management team,
and
right?
maybe the management team. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the management team don't know.
We can speculate that his wages are too high for the championship, but I'm not the club accountant. I don't know that. Maybe we're fine. Like, we can speculate that he wants to, be in a position to get back in the England team, and the championship isn't the place to do that. But also, like, Dean Henderson's making a real play at being the England number one, and he played his trade in the championship to get that opportunity. So,
yeah,
maybe his family life and being settled down here is all it needed. Like, he's happy here. He's going to keep being happy here, and maybe he won't concede as many goals in the championship. Maybe that's enough.
But look, stop getting too excited here, Greg. All right, because this is a bit too much for us.
Can you just think about the end? We get to the end of the transfer window, and we've kept both Aaron Ramsdale and Matty Fernandez. Like, that's as good as like £80 million worth of signings.
And not only that, we've left out one of the key bits there that we haven't really talked about much, which I'd expected to have heard more of by now, and that's Tyler Dibling. And we've not really heard anything. And he's at pre-season, just sort of, chipping away at it. So, yeah, like, basically some of the outgoings, as we've already talked about, are kind of confirmed what we'd expected. Some of them have come a bit out of the blue. As I said, the Joe Eribo thing there was conversation about that beginning in January, right? Bella-Kotchap probably never wants to play for us again. Probably never going to play for us again.
Do you think it's doing... do you think it's having, like, the opposite effect, right? Because it's not fire sale mode, like, literally our outlook has very notably and visibly been, we don't need to sell anyone. Like, we're good. We're set. But we need to trim. But do you think because of that, like, other clubs are holding out for slight more panic mode in an effort to get better value? Like, they don't want to deal with someone who's going to hold true to the value they want. They just want to nip him for 20 million.
Yes, I know, but it really depends on what our negotiating tactics are. If we cave 5 minutes before the end of the transfer window to try and sell somebody, I don't think they would be coming out and saying we don't need to sell these people if they also definitely are going to need to sell those people at the end of the window. I just think that it might mean that some of the incomings are less exciting than we think, or there's not as many that happen because we're stuck with some other members, other people who we would have expected to leave. And I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing, right? We said we're all up for redemption arcs across the board, but also, how many redemption arcs have we got left in our team at this point?
I think there's a lot of promise there. Like, there's hope.
Indeed.
The main ones that we knew were going to be out the door are either gone or on their way. There are a few that, we might still be stuck with that we probably would rather see the back of, but there's hope. There's enough there for hope, right?
There is enough there for hope. Just remembering the results of last season, but that's depressing. So when we're back, we'll talk about some incomings after a word from our partners at Bionique.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionique, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionique provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN 2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionique. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now. Your body.
And we are back. So, incomings, Greg. Should we start with the big one that we're all kind of aware is probably going to happen, and this rate kind of confirmed? So,
just waiting for the dust to settle on the internationals, right?
Yeah, basically. So, Damien Downs is expected to have his medical tomorrow or today at the time that you're listening. And will sign a 4-year deal with the Championship club, according to Florian Plettenberg, who is part of Sky Sports. So it's pretty reputable. It seems like it's essentially a done deal. He just needs to finish the internationals. Seems like a really good signing. People are already being like, oh, it's going to be Mara 2.0. If you treat every single striker we're going to bring in like that, you may as well just say that if they have an injury issue at any point, they're roster at 2.0. Like, treat every single individual.
6'3" striker with pace.
Yeah. It sounds like it's perfect for what we need.
It sounds exactly like the profile I'd expect us to be going for. Right?
The thing is that there seems to be an expectation, especially with strikers, that we have to buy a striker who is a proven goal scorer, and like we're not going to be able to do that. And where from? Like, you're watching all of these big clubs, like, unless every club is going to buy Isak, right, or Haaland, which isn't going to happen. You kind of don't really have that option, especially sort of dropping down out of the Premier League into the Championship. And, okay, so they're championship ones. Arguably, we have the strongest championship striker that we had this season, in Adam Armstrong. We didn't have a great time last time, but as we also pointed out, that might just be due to the tactics of West Brom more than anything else. So, the idea that we're strengthening with that position, they've done a lot of research into it. I'm excited. It'll be good. It's been a long time since we've had an American around the club, so that'll be exciting. Can't wait for the fact that Downs is going to pass to Downs and back to Downs. I love it when we have two people with the same name. Definitely doesn't get confusing whatsoever. We seem to be doing that now again. Armstrong to Armstrong.
I'm there for it. I love it. Makes it much easier. If you can look at a pitch and shout a name and there's a 50% chance you're right, it makes it much easier, right?
This is true. This is true. So so that's like the big bit of news. The rest are sort of kind of rumoured incoming. So Birmingham have apparently joined the chase for SC Braga right back Joe Mendes, but face competition from Sheffield United and us for the Swede signature. And that is according to a Swedish outlet called Express EN. So who knows how
sounds like an agent
it is.
Stir up some sort of bidding war. Right?
Yeah, well, especially with obviously Birmingham being sort of a promoted club who with a lot of money that everyone's kind of excited to come back, owned by like Tom Brady and that lot, and maybe won't make the same terrible decisions that got them demoted in the first place, like hiring Wayne Rooney. But you've got obviously Sheffield United and us, which are supposedly promotion contenders. I say supposedly, we should be. Who knows about Sheffield United? They're now managed by sellers, so I don't. Weird one. But yeah, obviously, right back position makes sense. At the right back now, we only have, Bree and Sugawara, right?
Yeah.
Am I missing anyone?
Charlie Taylor?
Charlie Taylor's left, kind of. So yeah, like, it wouldn't be surprising that is a place that they want to pad, especially with Colby Peters going. However, that isn't something they've pointed out. They've also made a show of, having a day in the life with Sugawara. So I kind of maybe could see him sort of playing more of a prominent role. Hopefully he'll get a little bit better defensively. We'll have to see. But yeah, that's that. The next one, I can't remember if I've mentioned this guy already. Or alternatively, I've just mentioned the team he plays for before. But Coventry City, Norwich and Southampton have all made contacts with the representatives of Belgian forward Andriano Bertaccini, 24. Plays for top flight side St. Trudian in his homeland. And I only say that because I remember mentioning St. Trudian like once or twice before. And I don't know if that was in reference to Will Still or all of the other stuff where we've had people go to Belgium in a lot of our coaching. All of the research that I'm doing, put it this way, is starting to just blend into my mind. But I think this might have been a rumor one of the last couple of episodes ago, but this is now a bit more confounded. It's in their local paper, so it's in the Coventry Telegraph.
Yeah, it seems that he's a forward player, right? And it feels like
it's the creative midfielder spot that we're talking about, right? Is that where, or is it more striker?
Yeah, I don't know. So it's interesting. If he's more of a striker, look, I've never seen him play football. I don't know. Let's be honest. But if he's more of a striker, it feels like maybe we've got that covered. If he's a creative midfielder, then maybe that's the one we're in for. But I mean, that is the position we've not really heard a lot on. However, once it became clear who we had our eyes on in that striker role, it very quickly became clear that was the one we wanted, and that's not really been the case.
And there's a lot of movement and stuff. So is this just potentially? It just seems like a lot of noise. I would be surprised if it's agents or whatever. Or alternatively, Coventry trying to big up someone they're buying by saying that we're after them as well. But it might have been that was somebody we were in contact with back then, but it doesn't seem to have a huge amount of legs. The next is the Star, which is a not really reputable source. However, I have seen it in other places, and no one can seem to get the poor lad's age right. But the Owls could lose out on teenager Sutra Kakai, despite offering the 17-year-old a new contract due to interest from us. So basically, we want this lad for our academy. And it sounds like, considering the absolute state that Sheffield Wednesday are in, and off the pitch a little bit at the moment now, it wouldn't be surprising if we end up picking him up. He's a midfielder. So, yeah, it would be interesting to see us, starting to build up our academy again, maybe start making some more sort of prudent signings into those areas that we want to build up, right? We've started to do it already last season. Again, Kaya Sander broke into the first team. He was taken from our sister team. So I don't think it's necessarily going to be as many homegrown recruits in our academy as I think we'd like. I think we are going to probably start poaching scholarships elsewhere. And the fact that we have the, power to do that again now means that that's good, right? It's not like our academy is some sort of decaying husk of a place that people are, which
there's a logical connection. There's still a logical connection between our youth setup and our first team, one way or another. And that isn't always going to come exclusively from building up players from the age of 14. Sometimes you need to bolster that with some outward signings. So it's not a bad thing. Yeah, it's good. It's good to see that in work. It's always part of the long-term bigger picture that we've got to think about.
Apparently, according to Saints FC Youth, who are like one of, if you've not ever checked out their X account, they're very good because they track all the youth teams and stuff, and it's been a great source of information over the last season to see how the younger lads are doing on. But apparently, according to them, he has already signed his training in London with the group, so who knows? Maybe he's already here. But either way, like the fact that we're still building up the academy and they have a big focus on it is important. Because as we've already started to see with sort of Tyler Diblin, Jay Robinson, Kaya Sander, we're starting to see the fruits of that labour pay off in the first team, right? And I think that's where, when we're expecting explosive signings in, I don't think that's going to be how we work as much as people think we are, right? I don't think that doesn't mean we're not going to have an exciting flurry towards the end of the season. I genuinely think that it really depends. If some of the players we've already spoken about make up their minds and decide to move on, I don't think that they're going to want to leave those positions empty necessarily, depending on where the positions are, right? Like if Fernandez and Diblin go, they're going to want to replace that. They're already planning to get an extra player as a creative midfielder. I wouldn't be surprised if they go for 2 at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my list for this week, mate. I don't know if you've got anything else that you've seen on the radar. You have your weird sources, right? Where like,
do you know, it's been real quiet.
Dry, hasn't it?
If we're being honest, my news feed has been so full of Black Sabbath and like British Grand Prix that I'd be surprised if any of it made its way through to me. But yeah, it's been like strangely quiet. But
I think just the current climate and the difficulty of last week across the footballing sort of world has made things that would usually catch traction slow down quite a lot, and that's not a bad thing. It just means that we've had a bit of a dry week in transfer news, so that's not the end of the world. As I said, I'm sure it's going to pick up, but it doesn't mean that there's still not moves taking place behind the scenes, right? And you can kind of see that start to happen. So yeah, hopefully everybody's enjoyed. Hopefully everyone's a little bit more informed. Hopefully by the time you're listening to this, we'll have a new striker. As I said, let's allow the players to play before we immediately start judging them. We're all guilty of it. But it would be really nice if some of our new signings actually got 5 minutes on the ball before we immediately jump down their throats. But thank you very much for listening. Greg, where are we? We're on all the socials, right? Facebook, X, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I'm thinking of how I do them in my head when we post. So yeah, that's where we are. We'll be back tomorrow for a fantastic research episode done by Greg. It's the one we alluded to yesterday. If you want to know what, either tune in tomorrow or alternatively listen to yesterday's episode. Greg, thank you for joining me, mate. It's been a pleasure as always.
Always.
And once again, to our dear listeners, thank you very much for listening, and we will see you in the next one.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.